That evening on The Late Show, something happened that had never been seen before on television. An 8-year-old girl in the audience raised her tiny hand during a discussion about childhood heroes, and when Stephan Colbert called on her, she spoke 7 words that would stop the entire studio. "Tom Hanks is helping me fight cancer." But what little Emma Rodriguez was about to reveal wasn't just about meeting a movie star. It was a devastating truth about secret kindness, about a Hollywood legend who had been quietly supporting her family through the darkest period of their lives, and about how sometimes the greatest heroes work behind the scenes where no cameras can see them. What you're about to witness isn't just about celebrity generosity. It's about discovering that real heroism happens in hospital rooms and phone calls and moments when famous people choose to be human first. The moment that would remind America what true kindness looks like started during what should have been a light-hearted segment about role models. But when Emma stood up in the 3rd row, everything changed. Because sometimes the most important stories come from the smallest voices. Before that, subscribe for more. Stephan Colbert had just finished a segment about everyday heroes when he decided to ask the audience about their own role models. The Ed Sullivan Theater buzzed with typical late-night energy, and families with children filled several rows. It was school vacation week, and many parents had brought their kids to experience live television. "Who here has a hero they look up to?" Stephan asked the crowd. "Someone who inspires you to be better?" Several hands shot up around the theater, and Stephan began calling on audience members. A teenager mentioned her teacher. A father talked about his military veteran grandfather. The responses were heartwarming, but predictable. Then Stephan noticed a small hand waving tentatively in the 3rd row. The hand belonged to a little girl who couldn't have been older than 8, wearing a bright pink headscarf and a "I'm Brave" t-shirt. She sat between a woman who was clearly her mother and a man who appeared to be her father. "Yes, sweetie, what's your name?" Stephan asked, walking closer to the audience. "I'm Emma," the little girl said, her voice small but clear in the hushed studio. "Emma Rodriguez." "Emma, that's a beautiful name. And who's your hero?" Emma looked at her parents, who nodded encouragingly, though something in their expressions suggested this wasn't going to be a simple answer. "Tom Hanks," Emma said. "Tom Hanks is my hero because he's helping me fight cancer." The studio fell silent. Stephan stopped walking, his expression shifting from casual interest to deep concern and curiosity. This wasn't the direction anyone had expected the conversation to go. "Emma, can you tell me more about that?" Stephan asked gently, his voice taking on the tender tone he used when interviewing children. Emma's mother, Maria Rodriguez, looked like she was fighting back tears. Her father, Carlos, reached over to squeeze Emma's hand supportively. "I have leukemia," Emma said matter-of-factly, with the brutal honesty that only children possess. "I found out last year when I was 7, and the treatments make me really sick sometimes." The weight of this revelation settled over the studio. Here was this tiny, brave girl discussing one of life's cruelest realities with the composure of someone much older. "Emma, that must be very scary," Stephan said, kneeling down so he could be closer to her eye level, even from the stage. "It was scary at first," Emma agreed. "But then Tom Hanks started helping me, and now I'm not as scared anymore." Stephan's eyebrows raised. "Emma, how is Tom Hanks helping you?" Emma looked at her parents again, and her mother nodded, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. "Can I tell the story, Mama?" Emma asked. "Yes, Mija, you can tell the story." Emma turned back to Stephan, and despite her young age, she seemed to understand she was about to share something important. "When I first got sick, the doctor said I needed to go to this special hospital in Los Angeles for treatment, but my parents couldn't afford to stay there for a long time, and I was really scared about being so far from home." The audience was completely absorbed, understanding they were hearing about one of every parent's worst nightmares. "My mama wrote letters to lots of famous people, asking if anyone could help us." She didn't think anyone would write back. but she was so worried about me that she tried everything. Emma's voice grew stronger as she continued. Then one day, we got a phone call from Tom Hanks's office. Not Tom Hanks yet, but someone who works for him. They said Tom had read Mama's letter and wanted to help. Stephen was visibly moved. What kind of help did Tom offer, Emma? At first, he paid for our hotel near the hospital so Mama and Papa could stay with me during my treatments. But then, Emma paused, looking at her parents for encouragement. "Tell him about the phone calls, Emma," her father said softly. "Tom Hanks calls me every week," Emma said, and her face lit up with a smile that transformed her entire demeanor. "Every Tuesday at 7 p.m., he calls me on Mama's phone and we talk about movies and books and how I'm feeling." The studio audience was beginning to react audibly, soft gasps and murmurs of amazement at what they were hearing. "Emma, what do you and Tom talk about?" Stephen asked, his own voice beginning to show emotion. "He tells me stories about making movies, and he asks me about my favorite books. He knows I love to read, so sometimes he reads me stories over the phone when I'm too sick from chemo to hold a book myself." The image of Tom Hanks reading bedtime stories over the phone to a cancer patient was overwhelming everyone in the studio. "But the best part," Emma continued, "is that he tells me about Woody and Buzz Lightyear like they're his real friends. He does all the voices, and he makes up new adventures for them just for me." Stephen had to pause to collect himself. "Emma, how long has Tom been calling you?" "Almost a whole year now. He's never missed a Tuesday, even when he's traveling for movies. Sometimes he calls from different countries, and he tells me about the places he's seeing." Emma's mother, Maria, finally spoke up. "Mr. Colbert, Tom has never asked for anything in return. No publicity, no recognition. He specifically asked us not to talk about it publicly. But Emma wanted to share her story tonight because she says Tom Hanks taught her that heroes are people who help others without wanting anything back." The profound generosity that Maria was describing, a year of weekly phone calls with no expectation of recognition, was affecting everyone in the studio. "Emma," Stephen said, "what has Tom Hanks taught you about being brave?" Emma's answer was immediate and wise beyond her years. "He told me that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared. He said that every time I go to treatment, I'm being brave like a superhero." The audience was openly emotional now, witnessing an 8-year-old girl finding courage through the kindness of a stranger who had chosen to become her friend. "He also told me," Emma continued, "that when I grow up and get better, because he always says when, not if, I should help other kids who are scared, just like he helped me." Stephen was struggling to maintain his composure. "Emma, what would you want to say to Tom Hanks if he could hear you right now?" Emma stood up in her seat, her pink headscarf bright under the studio lights, and looked directly into the camera. "Tom, thank you for being my friend when I needed a friend the most. Thank you for calling me every Tuesday and making me laugh when I felt sick. Thank you for teaching me that heroes are real and they help people just because it's the right thing to do." Her voice grew stronger. "And thank you for telling me that I'm brave, because now I believe it. When I grow up, I want to help kids just like you helped me." The studio erupted in applause, not the usual late-night television applause, but something deeper, more emotional. People were crying openly, moved by this little girl's courage and by the behind-the-scenes kindness of an actor who had chosen to use his fame to comfort a frightened child. Stephen stood up and addressed the camera directly. "Tom Hanks, if you're watching, I think I speak for everyone here when I say that Emma Rodriguez is right. Heroes are real, and you've proven that true heroism happens not on movie screens, but in the quiet moments when we choose to care for each other." He turned back to Emma. "Emma, you are one of the bravest people I've ever met, and Tom Hanks is lucky to have you as a friend." Emma beamed. "Can I say one more thing, Mr. Colbert?" "Of course. Sweetie, Tom always ends our phone calls by saying, "To infinity and beyond, Emma." So I want to say, to infinity and beyond, Tom Hanks. Thank you for helping me reach for the stars, even when I'm stuck in a hospital bed. The audience gave Emma another standing ovation as she sat back down between her parents, who were both crying but smiling with pride at their daughter's courage and eloquence. Stephen wiped his own eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes we get reminded that the most important stories aren't about celebrities or politics or entertainment. They're about ordinary people doing extraordinary things for each other. Tonight, we heard about both: an extraordinary little girl fighting an impossible battle, and a movie star who chose to fight alongside her, one Tuesday phone call at a time. The episode became one of the most watched late show episodes in the program's history, with Emma's story being shared millions of times across social media. But more importantly, it inspired viewers around the world to reach out to children's hospitals and cancer organizations to offer their own support. Tom Hanks never publicly commented on Emma's revelation, staying true to his preference for private kindness. But children's hospitals across the country reported a surge in volunteer applications and donations from people inspired by Emma's story. 6 months later, Emma's cancer went into remission. On the Tuesday after she received the good news, Tom Hanks called as always, but this time, instead of offering comfort during treatment, he was celebrating her victory over cancer. Emma's parents said they could hear him crying with joy over the phone. That's not just television. That's proof that real heroes don't wear capes or star in movies about saving the world. They answer the phone every Tuesday evening and read stories to scared little girls, reminding them that they're brave enough to fight anything. If you enjoyed this heartwarming story, please watch our other emotional videos and subscribe for more touching moments like this.